Alright, this is my Communications 130 creative commentary. So, I have to hand this in YouTube, so bear with me, guys. Let's begin. What do you think of yourself? Are you really who you think you are? And when you walk outside, are you the same person outside as you are inside? Or on your own? All of these questions give rise to the fact in society that no one really has their own self, if you will. People conveniently switch from one self to another in order to satisfy the situation that they're in. First of all, you could probably tell that I'm reading from a script, but how can we define self so that it's understandable? Because honestly, I wouldn't have even thought about the issue if I hadn't played Metal Gear Solid 2 or had taken this communication course. Self is basically how we are perceived, first by ourselves and then by other people around us. There are theories saying that self allows us to be who we are. We can define self by splitting into two categories, individual and societal. Individually, we call it self-esteem, and socially, we call it reputation. There's a distinct difference between the two, and it's that difference that shapes society into what it has become now. On our own, we like to think of ourselves as more than what reality defines us as. Sad, isn't it? There's a soul difference between individual and societal self. We have control over one of them, and the other is controlled mainly by the masses, or what we call society. The other aspect is societal self. This is the self that we ultimately have no control over. Society creates this self by generalizing the populace into groups and forming an image of the ideal individual from one particular group. Take teenagers, for example. When someone mentions teenagers, what do you think? The media probably influence people to say that teenagers are rowdy, manipulative, and destructive. But when we look at teenagers like ourselves, we don't think that teenagers are rowdy, manipulative, or destructive at all. But because there are so many negative views towards them, people are influenced, and it has become a self that teenagers are viewed that way. Societal self makes it impossible for us to be happy with ourselves, because it's created an impossible image for us to try and become, to try and grow up into, which is ultimately impossible, so we will never be happy with ourselves. To me, this all sounds very depressing, and it's pretty interesting if you think about it. So play Metal Gear Solid 2 to learn more about self in a more enjoyable manner, I suppose. Quoted from that game, actually, self becomes a mask that we wear throughout the day. It is who we are and how we act. So, do you still think you know who you are?